it's Andrea Mercier, aka Ann Loma, and welcome to my studio. Today is going to be a little bit of a ramble, a short ramble. I posted some background paintings that I recently did for my Collusion art exhibit. There is a link to the Facebook page in the dibbly-doo, and the last piece that I posted was a yellow piece called Sulfur, and my friend Lesline came on and said, "What are you thinking when you do your paintings?" And I was going to write her a lovely reply, and then I decided it would probably be easier to just do a short video and explain what it is that I do. Or don't do, as the case may be. So for anyone who knows me in real life, I'm very regimented. I like process. I like things done step by step. I like my justified borders. I like my balance sheet to be 0. I like spreadsheets. I like rules when it comes to creating something, you know, a profit loss statement, or, you know, a budget. I like things to follow the way they're supposed to. And when I started doing art, after I was laid off and decided to retire, I went back to school, drove my teachers insane because, of course, I wanted to know how something was done and why something was done a particular way, either a process or a technique, and I made them nuts. And it wasn't until I started doing this particular type of art, this fluid acrylic pour, this very abstract art, that I was finally able to let go of outcome. Which, of course, in all those other careers that I had, you did a certain thing, you got an outcome. You did another set of things, you got an outcome. With fluid acrylic pour, specifically, abstract in general, but fluid acrylic pour specifically, you can't depend on outcome. You can pick your colors, you can decide on a basic technique, you can choose to put orange here and blue there, or orange here and blue, you know, you can choose those things. But once you start to move the paint, you have to let go of outcome and trust the process. Trust what you're doing. Trust your experience, trust the paint that you've created, that it's all the same viscosity and you're not going to get mixing, you're going to get pushing. So I started thinking about what Lesline asked, and then I started to contemplate a little bit. What is it that I am thinking? And most of the time, the only thing I'm actually thinking is, please don't spill on the floor. Please don't make my studio a bigger mess than it already is, because that's all I have time to think about. The paint is moving, right? And you're doing this and you're trying to make sure that it doesn't all pour off one edge and be wasted, or that it's all staying on the side of the canvas that you want, or it's all working in the general theme that you originally thought of when you started. So once the paint goes down, and it's true, I will pick colors, I will pick a theme. And in this particular one, it was fire and ice. So I knew that I wanted hot colors, and I knew that I wanted cold colors, and I knew I wanted them both on the same canvas. And I knew, that's all I knew. So I put the paint down. You can actually see this one, which is called Delta Blues. It was made right there. I put the paint down, and then I started to manipulate it. But I could not have told you that this was the end result I would have gotten. I could not have planned for this end result. I planned for something like this, but I can't plan for specifically this. So, to answer Lesline's question, I don't actually think about anything, and it actually lets me enjoy it more. Because I'm not thinking about it and I'm not thinking about outcome, I get to enjoy the creative process as it's happening. I get to ooh and ah a little bit at my own work as it's going, and I get these really cool swirls of color, and I go, oh, that's really cool. So I'm not thinking my fluid acrylic pouring is actually a way for me to experience living in presence. I mean, there's lots of people out there who talk about how living in presence or living in the now enables you to be happier or more successful, and I've struggled with it my whole life because I was always worried about tomorrow. I was always worried about what was going to happen, where was money going to come from, how was I going to pay the bills, that kind of stuff. Or on the other hand, I worried about, something that I did, or I did something wrong, or something I said. So I was kind of always in the past and in the future, and I was never in the present. And this form of art has forced me to be in the presence so that I can experience it as it's happening. And when you're in presence, you can't worry about outcome and you can't think. You are just experiencing what's going on. And I think that now that I have said this out loud, it's one of the things that attracts me the most to this, because for me this particular form of art is all about color and movement and emotion and curiosity. What makes people curious? They come and they look at this painting and they go, oh look, I can see this here, or what's that over there, like how does this make me feel, or what does this remind me of? Or I get the curiosity questions of, how do you do this? How did you make this happen? And so the outcome, which is the final painting, is a culmination of that experience while I was doing it on canvas. I don't know if that makes sense. So this image that you see in front of you is a culmination of the emotion and the experience and the color and the movement of that exact moment when I was doing it, and it's now a solid reflection of that moment in time of my life. And then other people can look at it and they can say, or reflect, or be curious about, that's really cool, this is a moment in this artist's life, but it makes me think of this moment in my life, or makes me feel a certain way, and which reminds me of a time in my life. So to answer Leslyn's questions, I don't think at all. There is no thinking involved. The thinking comes before. Then there's the process of experiencing the now, and then there's the reflection afterwards of, look what I created, and I've now documented this moment. So it's a little bit deep for a random rambling. However, I think it's important that people understand that it's okay to not have an outcome ready. In this particular case, this piece wasn't even supposed to turn out like this. It was supposed to have the blues swirling and the oranges swirling and the blues, but something went wrong during the process, which you can see in the video, and then I couldn't do what I wanted to do. So some people may have thought that, well, that means that this is a failure because what I planned for didn't happen, but this actually turned out to be my favorite piece out of the trio. I like this one better than the ones that I planned more for. This one just happened, and I love it. And I think that's what art's all about, is just letting it happen. Whether you do fluid acrylic pour or abstract, or if you do realism, or if you do digital art, or if you do collage, whatever it is that you do, just let it happen. There is no failures. This is not a failure. This happens to be my favorite piece. And if it came out in a way which I didn't like, and I ended up painting over it and creating a different image, it still isn't a failure, because I learned something during the process. I learned what not to do. I believe it was Thomas Edison who said, I didn't fail when he couldn't create the light bulb right away, I learned how not to do it 10,000 different ways. And then on the 10,000th and first time, he got it right, and it worked. I wouldn't consider this a failure. I learned how to overcome a physical issue and still create a beautiful piece of art. Anyways, I really liked Lesline's question, and I would encourage you, if you have a question, whether it's a technical question or if it's a more ethereal question like this one, to put it down in the dibbly-doo. I do answer all the comments and messages that I get. Sometimes I just type them in, and other times I actually will do a video and I will explain it, especially for the ethereal ones. Sometimes it can be a little bit more difficult to type that up and get people to understand, and I always love talking about art. I always love talking about paint. I enjoy talking about the process of creating art, but one of the big things to learn is that part of the process is to let go of the process and just let it happen. Let the paint do its thing. Anyways, it's always better when you're here. Thank you so much. I'll see you later. Bye.